Welcome back to the game of Lumen Clash. Today I'm going to be playing through a quick mode version and just demonstrating some of the basic rules and strategy as I go. So, basics of the game: there are 6 guardians on one side that are fighting to defend the tree. On this side you have the Nightbringer, who's controlling waves of minions to try to attack. If the Nightbringer gets a single minion to touch the tree, Nightbringer wins. If the Guardians can clear the board of all minions at any point after the game starts, then they win. I'm going to jump right into it. There are the basic rules for the game. That is for the full mode. There's also a card that modifies the rules for a quicker mode. So if you want to play a game that takes more like 40-45 minutes as opposed to a game that takes more like an hour and a half for the full mode. In the quick mode, all the unique action cards have been removed. Certain pieces of equipment have been removed from the Guardian side, and certain damage cards have been removed from the Nightbringer, as well as 3 of the minion types have been removed. So in this game, we're going to be playing with the Golem, the Slime, and the Minotaur. So anything that is not specifically mentioned in the quick mode card will default to the full game rules. Guardians in the quick mode, Guardians start with a piece of equipment. So each of these Guardians have selected their equipment from the available choices. They also start off with, instead of drafting, they will draw their cards one at a time and take their turns in order. The Guardians will also keep their equipment even if they're knocked unconscious. So it's a lot to go through. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it and try to explain things as they come up. Start off the game. The Nightbringer will place 6 minions wherever they want to in the mist area. So I'm just going to do a mix. There are different strategic reasons for different things. I'm just doing them more or less random placement. And I'm just doing 2 of each. Now that could be all 6 of one. It could be any mix, however you wish to do it. And as long as it's on the outside mist tiles, then that is a valid placement. Nightbringer will also draw a damage card. And so they have that pocketed, a disarm. Whenever the minions will do damage to a Guardian, the Nightbringer gets to draw a card and then choose from the card in the hand or the card they just drew which one to apply and which one to hold on to. So the Nightbringer board is now set up and ready to start. Guardians each start with 1 card. The Guardians can choose to show their card to the rest of the table or not, realizing that you're trying to coordinate with other Guardians. However, you may or may not want the Nightbringer to know what you have. So starting off, Ralph has a basic attack in his hand, draws a dash. So this is Ralph's token right here. You can choose to hold up to 2 cards in your hand, so he could choose to do nothing past his turn, or you can play up to as many cards as you have. So in this case, each of the minions have a special ability. The Stone Golem makes it so that you can only be taken out by specials, or by a card that ignores the Stone Golem's armor. Slimes, when they are destroyed, they will damage any adjacent Guardian. Minotaurs can move an extra tile, so instead of moving 1 tile, they can move 2 tiles, however that works out. Because Ralph doesn't have a damaging special, at least not one that will do damage with this energizing light, he will choose to move, so he's going to use his dash, and that will make him go up to 3 spaces, so 1, 2, 3. Now the first one, he's running into an ally, which forces a swap if it's ally or enemy either way. 1, 2, 3, and then he's going to also play his attack card, and that will take out this minion. So that minion would go to the graveyard. This is the tabletop simulator version that I'm playing right now, just because it's easier for me to do a screen capture and record. The product itself is a physical version. It has, instead of these tiles sitting here, there is a board that will also have things like spot for the damage deck, spot for the Guardian card, spot for the minion graveyard. So I will also include some pictures in the campaign so you can see what the actual board looks like. But this should help with the basics of the strategy. And that is Ralph's turn. So I'm just going to flip over the card to show that he's taken his turn. You can do whatever you want to keep track. Okay, Ralph is gone. Next is Seth. Seth has movement and his crossbow attack. So he's going to choose to use both of his cards as well. Move down 1, and the crossbow can take out this slime here. Because there are no adjacent guardians, no damage will be dealt. Mabel's turn. Mabel has a movement and an attack. Now there's nowhere that I specifically want to be with Mabel right now, and there's no units in range that I can attack, so I'm going to go ahead and hold on to both of those. Next up, I have Entropy. Entropy has a lot of movement. So something that hasn't come into play yet is each Guardian can have up to one equipment, and in the quick mode they always have exactly one. The equipment can be used at any point during your turn. In this case, Entropy has the Boots of Swiftness, allows her to move one space for free, and so I'm going to use that. I'm just going to go ahead and move back onto the tree. And in my turn. Now, here we go. We got an Energizing Light. This is what's required to use your special. Each Guardian will have at the bottom of the card what their special is and what affects it. So in this case, Magnus has Magic Trick that he can swap any sets of tokens. Now in this case, do I want to use it? Sure, I'll go ahead and use it to demonstrate what it's like. So I go ahead and use that special. I can now take 3 pairs of tokens and swap them. I'm going to swap I think I'm going to swap myself with Mabel. That's one swap. I'm going to swap Ralph with this Minotaur over here. That's 2 swaps. And I have 1 swap left. I'm going to go ahead and swap Brian with this slime. So that would be using the special. I'm then going to use my equipment, which is the hidden weapons, to take out this Minotaur. And I'm going to use my crossbow to take out this slime. Now because there is a guardian adjacent to it, when I take out this slime, it will have its explosion deal damage. So the Nightbringer gets to draw a card, have whiff or disarm, and they're going to choose to apply the disarm to Entropy. That damage will remain until it has been healed, or until Entropy gets knocked out. That is the end of Magnus's turn. Now Brian gets to go. Brian has Energizing Light. Nothing is quite lined up, so I'm going to go and hold on to that. I'm going to use the boots to move over 1 space, though. Now, all the Guardians have gone, so that's the end of their turn. It's Nightbringer's turn. So any minion that's still on the board can move. You can flip them over to track which ones have gone. And then once they've all moved, you can spawn a new wave of minions. So I'm going to spawn 6 more. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now that's the end of the first turn. Guardians, oops, that's not in play yet. All the Guardians flip back up, refresh, and then you start back at the top. So Ralph's going to draw. He has drawn his Crystallized Light. That allows him to place his turret here. So I'm going to go ahead and use this special and place the turret down in any adjacent spot. And then it has a range of 2, and so it can shoot this slime over here, which would deal damage to Seth. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. So Nightbringer choose between these 2 damage. Applies the whiff, which doesn't do anything and is immediately discarded. Right, so the turret has gone. Ralph started his turn. He is not in range of Entropy to heal her, so his turn's over. Seth draws an attack, nothing to do with that. End of turn. And the reason why you can't use the attack on the Stone Golem here is because the Stone Golem ignores all their cards other than the specials, so it has to be a damaging special with Energizing Light to affect a Stone Golem. Now I noted that max hand size is 2. Your equipment does not count towards your hand size when it's equipped. However, that is at the end of your turn. So Mabel has 3 cards. If she does not use one, she will have to discard one at the end. I'm going to go ahead and use a move to go up. You know, I'm going to use that to swap places with Entropy. Now, Entropy is to draw, and same thing. 3 cards, the damage does not count towards your hand size either. The 2 that have first aid kits are Seth, he's down here, and Ralph, so I'm going to go ahead and use a move card to move a little bit closer to Ralph. In fact, I'm going to also use my boots to force a swap there. So that's the end of Entropy's turn. Now I'm out of cards here, so whenever you're out of cards, you just take the discard, flip it over, shuffle it, and play continues. So Magnus drawing the special again. In this case, I could start trying to set something up where I know the golems can only be destroyed with specials. So I'm looking for nice lines to set up for Brian to use his special to go through. And he's on a line there of 2. He can move over 1, hit a line there of 2. There's a line of 4 right here. One, 2. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do Nursing Light. So first swap is going to be this golem and the turret there. Second swap is Entropy and that golem. And then the third swap is going to be this turret and Brian. So that's the end of Magnus's turn. Brian draws. It's going to use Crystallized Light to use its charge, which pick a direction and keeps going in that direction until it can't go any further. Any enemies hit will get taken out. Any allies hit will just swap, same as any other movement. So Brian will continue going until he hits the edge of the board, most likely. If you hit a rooted character, that will also stop you. Anything that's unmovable that you hit. So Brian's also going to use Boots of Swiftness to move a little bit down here, so now better line there. That's the end of his turn. So back to the Nightbringer. Minions that are on the board get to go first. And so here I'm going to explain one of the tactics that you can start using. Just like Guardians can move into each other to force swaps, minions can do that as well. So I'm going to have this golem move back, which forces a swap with the Minotaur without taking the Minotaur's turn. This Minotaur is going to take its first step here, second step there, forcing a swap. And now this Minotaur is going to go here, and then there, which forces a swap. And this Minotaur is going to go there, and there, forcing a swap. And because Nightbringer's minion has reached the tree, Nightbringer wins. And so if you see minions clustering like that, the Guardians have to be mindful and to take care of them before they can use a tactic of that nature. So here was just an example game of how play could continue. Some of the things that we didn't really get through, other types of damage. You have Rooted, which means your minion or the Guardian cannot move or be moved by any means. Disarmed is they cannot deal damage to a minion. And Unconscious, they get removed from the board. And then Whiff is the one that we saw. That means attack does nothing, immediately discard. Those are the basic types of damage. Other cards. Cards are broken up into different categories. So we have, there's the regular move, there's a dash move. You have your basic attack, which is adjacent. You have your crossbow attack, which is up to 2 tiles. You have your Crystallized Light, which is unique for each Guardian, has different effects. And then for each of the equipment, first aid kit will remove damage from an adjacent guardian or self. Hidden weapons allows you to do a free attack, as if you had used a standard attack. Boost of swiftness allows you to do a free move, as if you had used a move action. And you'll notice on the action cards, it'll have action on the top right. That means they're single use. Equipment will have equipment on the top left, and that means you can, once they're equipped, you can continue to use them turn after turn, once per turn. Here's where it talks about the different abilities of the minions. So, as I mentioned, Stone Golem can only be destroyed by a special or an empowered attack. Empowered attack is a unique action that is in the full game, but not in the quick mode. Toxic Slime explodes, damage to all adjacent light units, so those the guardians and the turret, when destroyed. And Swift has 2 movement, and that's how I was able to do what I call the Minotaur Slingshot, where it can displace other minions to make them go all the way from the edge to the tree in 1 turn, if you allow a cluster of them to be near each other. Other minions that you can use in the full mode, Mirage Spider, it is immune to being banished or destroyed if it's on one of the outer mist tiles. Arcane Reaper can attack in any range but can't move. And you have Fate. Fates can only be spawned if a guardian is unconscious at the end of the cycle. And they each have their own tokens. There are 6 of each of the standard minions, and then 5 of the Fates. Zoom in here a little bit more on the Nightbringer. Nightbringer can spawn 6 minions, obviously not the Fate, that's a special one. And then they draw a damage card and apply one from the hand when the minions deal damage. So that's, as we saw, anytime one of the minions will do damage to a guardian, you draw a card and you pick between the 2 which one you want to keep and which one you want to apply. Setup just goes through, place the guardians on the grass tiles. Those are these grass tiles around the tree where it started. If you're playing the full mode, Energizing Melody gets placed on the bottom of the deck. So take that out, shuffle the cards, and put it on the bottom. Deal 1 card to each guardian. That's the same for both modes. Nightbringer gets all minion tokens and 1 damage card. Same for all modes. Cycle order, as we went through, Nightbringer places their units. Then the tree in the regular mode will draft a card per each guardian that then they can choose between and negotiate. Guardians take their turn. In the draft mode, or in the full mode, they can take their turn in any order. In the quick mode, they have to go in the specific order, so it goes faster that way. Minions go in any order, and then any end of the cycle effects, so that's where check, did a minion touch a tree, are all the minions cleared off the board. Some certain types of damage have different effects that happen at the end of the cycle. Other guardian cards also have different things that will say end of cycle. Rules continue to talk about how the guardians take their turns, how the minions go, how attack works, end of cycle, what order different things resolve, some clarifications on the wording on how to interpret these rules, and just some definitions. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I will post screenshots of what the actual product looks like. I'm just using the Tabletop Simulator version, which I use for early testing, to take the recording because it's a lot more convenient. So I'm going to go through some of the cards that were removed from the quick mode that are in the full version. So one thing to note, the game includes 4 different whiff cards, and you can use those as a difficulty slider. If the Nightbringer is more experienced, you add in more whiff cards to make it so that they have a harder time dealing damage. If they're less experienced, you can take some out, and so you can play with 0 whiff cards. If their guardians are more experienced than the Nightbringer, you can play with all 4 whiff cards if the Nightbringer is the most experienced player. Unique damage type, there's Consuming Darkness. So this is one of the ones that has an effect at the end of the cycle, where it forces a discard. If the guardian's unable to discard a card, then they get knocked unconscious. You have Energy Leech. Until it's healed, at the end of the cycle, the Nightbringer can take a minion from the graveyard and add it back to the board. There's additional equipment that's in the full mode of Guardians can have Shield of Light, which will ignore the first damage to the Guardian each cycle. You have Cloud Fairies, which will cause the tree to draft an additional card. So instead of drafting 6 cards for the 6 guardians, you can draft 7 or 8 or however many additional Cloud Fairies you have. And then we have some of the unique actions. So Swift Attack is a movement and an attack together, so you can move 1 tile and destroy 1 minion. You have Guarded Attack, which is an attack and a shield together. You have Desperate Attack, where you can choose however many adjacent minions you want to destroy. However, you also take that amount of damage. So there are times where you might most likely knock your Guardian out, but if there are 3 minions that are about to reach the tree that you want to take all 3 of them out, it will do all the damage before, or it will destroy all the minions before it resolves the damage. You have Empowered Attack, and that is the exception for bypassing the Stone Golem armor. So any Guardian can use this. You have a unique movement, where you can move from anywhere on the map back to either the tree or grass tile, and it ignores the rooted damage type, so that could be useful. Each of the unique actions, there's only one of in the deck. Barricade, it allows you to use that for a single turn. However, during that cycle, you cannot be damaged or moved. And then we have Energizing Melody. This is the card that will start in a full game at the very bottom of the deck. Whenever it's used, every single Guardian gets a chance to use their special, even if they don't have Crystallized Light. So, in the full mode, often the game hinges around when that comes up and how it's used. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment on this video, and I will try to address and clarify them.